Udaipur is a project where, there is a existing terminal and we were given the task of creating a new terminal right adjacent to it. So, the idea of aviation change in architecture in aviation in the country is that earlier everyone wanted to have a global facility. Since India was new to this technology and in aviation, but now we see there is a change in trend, and we are looking at new terminals where, even in the brownfield integration, one wants a culturally rich terminal and people want to associate that this is my terminal. So, the idea of new terminals where local architecture is expressed, and we see that, people also want that there should be a change and one is able to see change in light and shadow during the day. So very local expression in Udaipur. Udaipur is a culturally rich area with royal palaces and courtyards. So we see flavor of stone architecture coming back in check-in areas. And even in the whole rooms, the use of new materials along with old materials like stone. So, giving a perspective of richness inside the terminals through flooring. So, the insertion of jalis, minute flooring patterns. So this kind of gives flavor of the place inside the terminals that are coming up in the country. Artwork, integration, pausing areas. Even in the air side, air side has its own limitation, but still somehow how we can give visual connectivity to the passengers so that they can see the aircrafts coming in and out, but at the same time there has to be a representation of culture through jalis and arches that are coming in new terminals of the country. And as Srilata mentioned, now it is very, very important that one is able to integrate BIM as a technology, so that in terminals the height is a very, very difficult constraint that one kind of struggles with. So new technology gives us a heads up where we are able to achieve much more volumes in the given constraint heights. So this is one example where BIM integration is being done, and we are also creating digital twin while the construction activities are happening on site. So this kind of gives a idea of what's going on. And then through 4D, one is able to integrate the actual construction and the planned construction. This gives us a chance to understand and navigate where there are the gaps and how these gaps can be probably corrected in time. Shift that is happening. So you sometimes back when we created terminals in double curvature, steel was probably new in the country where column free spaces and structures which were more globally interesting were being perceived. So this is a classic example where steel was being used, and the design was kind of inspired by the birds of the wing. And we tried to create a day-lit terminal. So you would see that in each grid, the skylights were created so that one is able to get natural light inside the terminal. So kind of isometric view of the structure. So it is very important in these kind of terminals to see that aesthetics and structure are combined together so that one achieves efficiency in overall design. And these are the north lights that I was talking about. So each junction has light that is coming inside the terminal during some of the photographs during construction. So what happens is once you get natural light inside the terminal, one is able to perceive the change of how the light shifts from daytime to the artificial light in the evening. So this kind of changes the mood of the passengers inside the terminal. Some of the photographs during construction, airside views. So we kind of protected the south uh, side by providing louvers, uh, insertion of local art, and then eventually, the terminal is filled by its own occupants like food courts and other things which keep on coming during the life cycle of the terminals. The land side, and a very interesting facility, terminals are being created all across India, and some of the parts are so distant, so that in Agartala, you are creating a terminal where even a simpler laborer does not have any mode of communication except the airport. So one then creates terminals which are simple and clean. So here, existing terminal is on the north side, and we came up with the brand new terminal. It's a brownfield project with a multi-level car park. So again, the concept of how local aesthetics like bamboo and like forest can be represented through GFRC Jali. Some of the construction photographs. So then, in the end, a lot of local flavor through artwork from bamboos was inserted in the terminal to give a very, very local flavor. Photographs during inauguration. So, from that perspective to another airport that we did in record time of 15 months, here the idea was that how probably we can look at a terminal and a passenger experience where local fort architecture plus Scandinavian architecture, very minimalistic architecture can be thought of. So we came up with this idea of a glass building encompassed by bastions, which represent the local fort of Gwalior, and a very very subtle experience of the local flavor of sun and some of the artworks on the top. So it was a very, very subtle representation of how one can represent the local culture inside the new terminal buildings. So, taking inspiration from various elements of the local city. So the terminal kind of sits right at the center of the new plaza, while the existing terminal is on the adjacent side, since it's a civil enclave. So the whole thing was integrated through BRIM, and through the technological integration, we were able to increase the heights, clear heights, especially in the hold rooms on the ground floor level. Some of the construction photographs. So again, here the check-in experience is based out of, jalis which are backlit, and there are some photographs which are representing the path of how the aviation and the scenario was changing in the local city of Gwalior. Central theme of artwork coming to integrate the overall volume inside the terminal. You again, in the once you arrive here, you see that how you see this, the space is quite clear, but again there is an integration of local artwork through pottery and through the local carpets, and the sun diagram on the skylights. This is another one in Rajkot where we created first on the face a facade which was inspired by the local jalis of Gujarat airside. And here one sees that there is a beautiful play of light and shadow that happens once you arrive in the curved side of the terminal. Even the check-in counters have their own expression. Construction photographs. This is how it has been constructed now. The check-in counters. So this kind of shows how the aviation landscape is changing in terms of how the new passengers would be feeling the facilities. And when we now are going towards the bigger terminals, which are more than 80,000 square meters and more than 12 million capacity, we see that there is a demand from the passenger to think of their terminals very locally. So we came up with this idea of how the terminal architecture can be derived from the local Vishwanath temple. And then this whole idea of, in the fall ceiling, you see the patterns which are derived from the local flavors of the saris. So the idea of how one is able to integrate modern technology with local flavor, so that we are able to achieve terminals which are much more intensive in terms of cultural experience. The whole rooms, again, the design of uh, the lighting fixtures have been done in such a way that they represent the very vibrant fabric of sari. Uh, the baggage area, where we show the different imagery in terms of Nataraja. So the new these are the terminals which are upcoming. So we see that there is a transition from architecture which was much more simple in Raipur, but now the flavor is becoming much more local. And here, in a very very local city of Rajamundry, where we got an opportunity to actually integrate the existing terminal with a new terminal. So that's a very very tricky task when you are building a new terminal and there is existing building right adjacent to it. So integrating both of them together becomes a very very difficult task, not in terms of design but also in terms of constructability, to balance both the architecture of the ancient times with the modern aesthetics. And this is about to open up in March. So we saw, some flavors which were quite different. And one, I would just like to present a very, very opportunity where we were able to express culture in terms of architecture on the face. And Ayodhya is a place which is very close to the heart of our Hindu philosophy. So terminal where the design has been derived from Dravidian architecture is a very very interesting experience for us. So here, existing terminal is on one side, and the proposed terminal is on the other side, extreme side. So there is a distance of almost 2 kilometers, which was connected, which is being connected with the elevated road. Here is a expression of a mandapa, and how the flavor of offsets in the Ram Mandir philosophy can be brought to the terminal, because terminals are the gateways of the city. So we came up with this idea where the expression of the terminal is very very experiential, and even all the elements have been picked very carefully, so that the amalgamation of architecture with the terminal is done in such a way that it kind of represents the local flavor very carefully. Even towards the air side, that integration has been done in a subtle manner. And the celebration of Lord Rama's Diwali is such a beautiful festival in the country. So we have tried to create a architecture language where we are representing the lighting through diyas on in the fall ceiling. All being done in a very subtle and modern manner, but representing our past connotations in the terminals. So these are some of the flavors I thought, it would nice to share with our audience, so that to understand how the aviation architecture landscape is changing. So thank you so much.